Hello again, I'm Tripp Rogers, and this is Tripp's Take. Boy, have I got a lot of stuff to talk about. As I mentioned last week on Tripp's Take, I was down in Bradenton at the LPGA Founders Cup golf tournament. It was very interesting because, well, first of all, one of the issues that I have said, and I have with the LPGA, they don't do a good job promoting their event. Case in point. On the same day, I was stopped by two people who had no idea there was a golf tournament going on in Bradenton. One of the times was when I was at the parking area for us to shuttle over to the golf course. That to me is just criminal. And I say this because of my experience with the LPGA ShopRite Classic, which is up in New Jersey. For years, you knew that event was there. And ShopRite does a great job promoting it. I don't know who dropped the ball on this one, but nobody knew that that golf tournament was there. And unfortunately, the crowds reflect that. There were not that many spectators, although there were more on the weekend than there were during the week, but still not a great turnout. Now, the second thing that struck me is I was, for the first time, and I have now done 5 or 6 LPGA golf events, but I have never had Nelly Korda, who, of course, is the top golfer, and you know who she is because she's also a very beautiful woman. Well, I got a chance to go with her for a couple of holes, and so first time I've really seen Nelly Korda up close. And the thing that struck me so much was the fact that she is a very tall woman. She's about 5'11". And the striking issue here is that most of the golfers on the LPGA circuit, they're all between 5'2" and 5'4". And I kid you not. Now, there are a couple golfers who are taller, but that's what struck me because it was easy to pick her out in a crowd because of how tall she was. And I think that's one of the reasons why she's such a good golfer. I mean, listen, I was sitting there and I was in awe of everybody because they were much better golfers than I will ever be. Although, made me feel good. One of the rounds, one of the golfers mishit a chip shot off of the green, chipped and put it over the green, and then did the same thing again, caught it on the front of her iron and knocked it back. So I'm like, well, that's my kind of shot. You know, what can I say? But anyhow, so those are a couple of observations. Now let's talk about the big event of last weekend, the Super Bowl. I think I said to you, I thought the Philadelphia Eagles were going to win this game. I thought they were ready to win this game, although I would have liked to have seen history. Boy, did we miss on this one. Kansas City Chiefs did not show up on Sunday. I think the final score is not reflective of the game. The Eagles absolutely manhandled the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. And here's the problem I have with this. The Kansas City Chiefs, I think, are in danger of becoming the Atlanta Braves of the 90s. If you look, the Chiefs have now been to 7 straight AFC championship games, but they've only won 3 Super Bowls. And that's kind of like, and I'll go back to refresh your memory of the Braves in the 90s. It seemed like every year they won their division. They only won 1 Super Bowl, 1 World Series title. They only won 1 World Series. Of course, they lost to the Yankees twice. They lost to the Minnesota Twins in 92. So, you know, I don't know. I just, while Kansas City has done a great job, that game Sunday, they really came up small. And that was unbelievable. Now, of course, let's also talk about the thing everybody talks about, is the halftime show. Now, I will be the first to admit, not a Kendrick Lamar fan. Never have been, never will be. I've never been a hip-hop fan, period. But the thing about it is the Super Bowl halftime show, the idea is to get people to watch the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl, the idea is to get people to watch. I'm talking casual fans. And the age group that they're trying to attract is 25 to 45. And maybe even we'll go a little younger, 18 to 45. Kendrick Lamar is one of the top stars, and that's what the kids listen to. That's what the players listen to. Now, just because I don't like it and a lot of older adults don't like it, doesn't mean Kendrick Lamar should not be doing the halftime show. I mean, listen, I've given up fighting this battle because I understand, my kind of music, not going to be the halftime show at the Super Bowl. The idea is to get somebody who is going to appeal to the most people. I wasn't thrilled with J-Lo and Shakira a few years ago, but I watched it because it was the Super Bowl halftime show. I wasn't thrilled with the rap halftime show in Los Angeles with Snoop Dogg and Kid Rock. And I think I mentioned it. I was like, Kid Rock's been around for 20 years. I was like, wow. Eminem. No, it wasn't Kid Rock. It was Eminem. Excuse me. But that being said, I'm not the Democratic that the NFL is going for. So I can live through it, for the halftime Super Bowl. The commercials, they were great. And I knew the Budweiser commercial was going to be good. And I think I said this, I may not have said it on the podcast, but I did say it on my radio show at Q105.3 because I played Let Your Love Flow right after that commercial was released. And this was earlier in the month. And I said, this is going to be big. Actually, it was a couple of weeks ago. It was the end of January it was released. And I said, this is going to be big. I'm telling you, this is going to be a great spot. And I was absolutely right. So I take some credit for that. But anyhow, so we move along. We put that to rest. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a halftime show that everybody would enjoy. And I got to believe it'd be Taylor Swift. And the only problem is I think Taylor Swift will eventually do the Super Bowl halftime show. The thing of it is she is not going to do it as long as Travis Kelce is still playing, because I think that would be a huge, huge distraction if he was playing and she was performing at halftime. But eventually, I think she will do it. And I've got to give some props to Saquon Barkley because he came to her defense because she was booed when she was shown on the Jumbotron in the Caesars Superdome during the football game. And he was doing an interview with Howard Stern on Sirius XM, and he said, what's the deal? Why are people hating on her? Why? What did she do? She's there supporting her man. And the other thing is, she has increased visibility in the NFL because there are people who have nothing to do with it who watch it because Taylor Swift is going out with Travis Kelce. Listen, I'm not saying that, some people, that's what the thing they need. And he said, look, we're going international. And she has something to do with that because she's there. Why are people hating on her? Good point. I tip my hat to that one from Saquon. So anyhow, the Super Bowl we put to rest. Baseball training camps are opening, so it's onward to baseball. And this weekend, it's the Daytona 500. All right, I'm pumped up. I am ready for the NASCAR season, and before we know it, it'll be Formula One, and then the Indy 500. Boy, I'm going to have a busy few months, but I know we got to get through a few things. Anyhow, that is Tripp's Take for February the 13th, 2025. Don't forget your Valentine's cards for tomorrow. I'd love to hear your comments and questions if you have any about our podcast. It's trippstake@gmail.com. I want to also remind you that if you are a fan of Phil's Tracks, I've been on that show a number of times, and if you're a fan of Phil's Tracks, there's a new segment we're doing called Trippin' Up Trip, in which he tries to stump me on music trivia and top 10 lists. It's a lot of fun to do that. You can catch that on Spotify. Fantasy football players, our last go-round for Sunday with the Fantasy Sultans and the Fantasy Sultan podcast. Well, the Fantasy Sultan podcast, we have finished and we will do another show in April as we start to gear up for 2025. But Sunday with the Sultans is on Fox Sports New Jersey and Fox Sports Jersey Shore radio stations, and on foxsportsnewjersey.com. That will be Sunday at noon on the 16th, and we'll have an hour-long show in which we wrap up the fantasy football season and the NFL season. If you like the music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, give a listen to WTRSradio.com, powered by Live365.com. Join us again next week for another edition of Tripp's Take. I am Tripp Rogers. I thank you for joining me. Make it a great one.